Okay, bore da, Chris Abab, and good morning and welcome to everybody to this, the Welsh Ambulance Service University Trust's annual general meeting for 2025. The meeting is being recorded. It's available to watch via the Trust's website and also via the YouTube channel, and it's all being facilitated by the Teams Town Hall webinar. Warm welcome, please, to our British Sign Language interpreters, Rachel Williams and Niall Kirtland. We also welcome Kate Evans, our Welsh language translator, to this event. Our agenda today, I think, is being displayed on the screen. It's very straightforward. Our annual report and audited accounts come in 3 parts, and you'll find these on the Trust website in full if you wish to read those. The first part of this will be presented to everybody, and that is the audited accounts. It will be presented by our Finance Director, Chris Turley. The second part is our performance reporting, and that will be presented by a selection of our executive team. And the third part of our annual report is the accountability report that will be presented by our Director of Corporate Governance and our Board Secretary, Trish. We'll take a forward look at what we're planning to do during the coming few years at the end of this session, and we'll also be taking questions from the public. We have some submitted questions already, but if you're watching online, this is a public meeting, and if you do have questions, you can do that by adding your questions to the question answer functionality, which you will find in the Town Hall meeting system. So without further ado, we'll move on to the second item on the agenda, which is to confirm the minutes of the AGM. These have already been presented to the board and accepted, so this item is for information only, as they have, as I say, been formally approved by the Trust Board. So we present those minutes of the AGM last year, 2024, for information. So we then move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the presenting of the annual report and the accounts. And I'm going to hand over to Chris to take the first part, which is the financial part.
Thank you, Chair. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be able to then input the accounts for the financial year 24-25. I'm just going to take a few minutes just to highlight some of the key elements within the accounts, the statutory duties that we have to deliver upon, the timelines which we went through to prepare and receive an audit of the accounts, and just some of the key values within it. So in terms of a general overview, the timeline for receiving the audited accounts from a government perspective was the 30th of June in 2025. That did come forward a couple of weeks from the same period last year, and we are hoping to further recover that back to perhaps close to where it was a number of years ago when we completed some of this work a few weeks ahead of that. The timeline included us submitting our draft accounts by the 2nd of May, which we did. And within which we confirmed all our statutory financial duties for the financial year were met. As ever, a very detailed audit was then undertaken by Audit Wales on those accounts, which included a revenue surplus of £70,000, a small revenue surplus set against the total levels of income we received, so essentially a break-even position. I'm really pleased to confirm that we had an unqualified opinion on those accounts from Audit Wales. No adjustments were needed to that draft set of accounts. They provided a true and fair view, and also the regulatory opinion in terms of our ability to balance over a 3-year cycle was also confirmed through that. I therefore presented the audited accounts to our audit committee, ARAC, on the 24th of June, and Trust Board approved 6th of June, and it signed off by the Auditor General for Wales the day after, the 27th of June, so well in advance of that 30th of June deadline. Just a couple of the headline values within those accounts that got us in particular to that £70,000 revenue surplus position. It was made up of total income from patient care activities of just under £315 million. And the vast majority of that, 275 million of it, comes from our contracts and agreements with the Joint Commissioning Committee as a commissioned body within NHS Wales. That's where the vast majority of the income for us flows through, although we do receive income direct, some 6 million of it direct from health boards and 32 million direct from Welsh Government as well. As you can see from that slide, it's not just a revenue break-even position we have to make. We have to deliver within a capital expenditure limit that's set to us by government. And we also have a public sector payment policy statutory requirement. How quickly we pay our invoices. 95% of our non-NHS invoices have to be paid within 30 days, and we delivered on that as well. Just in terms of some of the breakdown of how we've spent our money, so therefore that the income was pretty much matched by our expenditure on the basis that we essentially broke even. And as you can see, the chart shows that the vast majority, nearly 3/4 of our spend, not untypical for an NHS or public sector organisation, is spent on our staff. 236 million of that income is spent on operational staff costs. Within the non-pay element, and surprisingly for the type of organisation we are, 17 million of that non-pay spend was on transport. That's not the costs of buying vehicles, but the cost of running vehicles. So the fuel, maintenance, service, repair costs of our fleet. And a similar amount was also spent on servicing and delivering the circa 120 to 30 sites and premises we've got across Wales, and other estate costs. And then there's 20 million or so in what's described as the non-cash costs within that, which are essentially some technical accounting items, but some depreciation and impairments at about 20 million within that as well. And finally, just a quick update on the capital spend within our accounts as well, which totaled in the region of just under 21 million a year. Again, unsurprisingly though, the biggest single element of that, just under 15 million, was in replacing some elements of our fleet. The rest of it is predominantly on our estate improvements we were putting in here, and as you can see, some kit, digital and critical equipment spend. So that was, Chair, all I was going to probably present in terms of some of the highlights within the accounts. As you say, the full set of accounts are available for public viewing should anybody wish to do so, and of course at some point through the proceedings this morning, happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I think now I'm handing over to Rachel, our interim Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. So we're pleased to present now a brief overview of last year 24-25. And we have a variety of our executive directors will be presenting, including Lee, our Executive Director of Operations, Andy, our Executive Director of Paramedicine, Carl, our Director of People, and Angie, our Director of Culture. So thank you.
Yeah, Rachel Borodar. I'm going to start with this table, which compares performance, actually looking slightly further back from 1920 to 24 at 25. And I know that the board seen this already, but during this time, our non-emergency patient transport service seen significant improvements in both service timeliness and quality. Recently, demand, especially for dialysis patients, has risen, with longer journeys as a consequence of service redesign and greater patient complexity, which unfortunately is leading to some cancelled journeys. Addressing these rates of cancellations is going to require us to implement on our roster review, which is due this year, alongside some ongoing discussions with commissioners. There's a couple of highlights for NEPS in the last year. We launched a two-way texting system. Since February 25, patients can now cancel journeys via reminder texts, reducing last-minute cancellations and resource loss. And from August this year, I'm pleased to say that we are hoping to be able to offer additional communications where we will be advising patients of ambulances making their way to them. I'm also pleased that we've enhanced provider quality using the 3Q Welsh Ambulance Quality Standard Award, which has led to safer and better equipped fleets, as now all vehicles have improved patient chairs, more manual handling tool, and AEDs. From an experience perspective, it's also good that we've integrated the oncology transport into the enhanced hub, which is also seeking now to improve timeliness, communication on shared learning or oncology services across Wales. Now, a little bit to say on this slide, so I'll just ask if you bear with me, because there's quite a few moving parts here. The 111 service in Wales offers continuous access to both urgent and non-urgent services, as well as clinical advice and treatment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As indicated by the chart in the top left, demand for the 111 service has steadily increased over the past 2 years, with an overall rise of 2% in 24-25 compared to the previous year. And of course, whilst that might sound small in the context of almost 1 million contacts, it's not insignificant. Notably, there has been a marked increase in demand during standard operating hours, likely reflecting broader challenges in accessing primary care. Referring to the chart on the top right, the Trust did not achieve the 5% call abandonment rate target in any month of 24-25. Performance was notably impacted by the implementation of the new 111 clinical streaming system in April 2024, as evidenced by peaks in messaging during April and May that coincided with that transition. Acknowledging that recovery to the 5% target has not yet been achieved, we are actively engaging in rostering practices and demand modelling to evaluate and optimise both efficiency and capacity. We have introduced virtual queuing for 111 service, enabling callers to disconnect and receive a callback while maintaining their position in the queue. This feature is utilised by approximately 25% of callers who experience wait times of 5 minutes or more. Additionally, we've deployed resources in a more integrated way to mitigate avoidable harm. Throughout the winter and continuing into the present, some of the 111 call handling capacity has been allocated to manage activity originating from 999 calls, allowing triage using the new call streaming technology. This approach, aimed at ensuring patient safety during waiting periods, has proven to be effective and is under consideration for sustained integration as part of ongoing service development initiatives. Furthermore, it is important to emphasise that an incident does not constitute an emergency solely based on the caller's chosen contact method. The 999 number should be reserved for emergencies, but we continue to enhance our capability in directing patients to appropriate care pathways, regardless of their initial point of contact. Turning to the chart in the bottom left, the clinician callback target was consistently met throughout all 12 months, the highest priority calls, demonstrating positive performance even during the system transition period. While lower priority calls experienced a boost in performance, this coincided with an increase in consultation volumes, as depicted by the rising green bars on the bottom right chart from December 24 onward. Several factors have contributed to this trend. In late 2024, a new clinical role was introduced earlier in the 999 call flow process to better identify cases suitable for further remote assessment prior to ambulance dispatch. Additionally, in December 24, changes to our clinical safety plan meant that 999 call handlers would no longer inform callers an ambulance could not be sent due to capacity constraints. This is now reserved only for the most critical escalation point. This strategic decision aimed to optimally direct patients to appropriate services, reduce unnecessary walk-in activity at busy emergency departments, and ultimately enhance patient safety, despite absorbing greater organisational risk. It is noteworthy that our remote clinicians are now conducting a higher volume of assessments than ever before, further testing our capacity. On a related note, there is a difference in the calculation methodology for the time to clinical triage metric within our new system, and we intend to address and standardise that from the 1st of August. This section addresses the outcomes resulting from recent pathway adjustments, removing can't send options at the point of 999 contact and earlier clinician involvement in the 999 pathway. The chart on the left displays our consultant close rate, represented as a proportion of the 999 verified incidents. Our target of achieving a 17% consultant close rate for 999 calls has been consistently met over the last 4 months of 24-25, coinciding with the operational changes deployed during the winter period. This suggests that even during periods of peak demand, maintaining patient flow into our service allows us to connect individuals to the most appropriate care pathways, albeit with potential delays. Additionally, there appears to be a benefit in reducing the number of patients directed to emergency departments. The chart on the right illustrates the number of patients who are either advised that an ambulance cannot be dispatched or who subsequently cancel their request before ambulance arrival. A significant decrease is evident following the implementation of these changes from December 2024. The Trust will continue to collaborate with health boards to develop patient pathways that minimise unnecessary conveyance to emergency departments. As we evolve and strive to deliver more integrated care for our patients, this area will remain a priority focus in the upcoming year. 999 activity has marginally increased compared to the previous year, but as you can see from the top chart, that peak experienced in December 2024. For me, actually, it's impressive that the 999 call answering median seen on the bottom left has consistently been within 1 to 2 seconds throughout 24-25, with 65% of calls being answered within 2 seconds. There have been some peaks at the 95th percentile in winter associated with periods of higher activity. However, our 999 responsiveness continues to compare favourably with trusts across the UK. The Trust is expected to get to 65% of red calls within 8 minutes, but the Trust was not able to meet that target during any month throughout the year, and I'll share more on red in just a moment. For the 24-25 year, compared to the previous year, there were fewer amber category incidents attended and response times increased. The median response time changed from 1 hour 17 to 1 hour 47. Response times were longer during winter, which coincided with higher activity levels and increased capacity loss due to hospital handover delays. And that correlation I will show shortly. Changes implemented last winter focused on addressing factors linked to extended community wait times. A 21% rise in red call volume for 24-25 led to nearly 11,000 more patients attended in this category than the previous year. Although the 65% target was missed, we still reached over 4,300 more patients within compared to the previous year, continuing the trend seen before that. This, of course, will be our final AGM with such a focus on the 65% in 8-minute response target, as future performance will be measured under the new ambulance performance framework, which has been effective since the 1st of July. A primary factor influencing response times, especially amber responses, is the sustained increase in the number of hours that ambulance crew spend waiting to transfer patients to emergency departments. In 24-25, the Trust experienced a loss of more than 260,000 hours of ambulance availability due to time spent waiting outside hospital for patient handover, which actually represents a 2% increase from the previous year. This reduction in capacity highlights ongoing challenges with patient flow and has been a major driver of change within our organisation. Thank you.
Thank you much, Lee. And I think we're now passing over to Liam. Andy. Okay, Andy.
So Borodar, everyone, I'm Andy Swinburne, Director of Paramedicine here at the Welsh Ambulance Service. And I'm going to talk through a number of slides now about our work to improve both the quality of care and the clinical performance that we're offering to our patients. So this, the year in question, basically talk about how we've built all the requirements of to improve our duty of candour, revised our quality and performance management framework to better support the quality and health and care standards in 2023. We've co-produced a revised strategy plan for the next 3 years with a focus on how we can impact on population health and value-based healthcare. We've introduced an annual quality conference to help all areas of the organisation increase their capability and capacity to support the quality management systems and co-production. And we've been growing our networks about listening to our communities and identifying barriers to hearing our citizens' voice. And we've continued to embed the quality impact assessments in some of our key strategic decisions to ensure that we're always acting in the best interest of the patients. And we've continued to demonstrate a duty of candour to those that we need to. And on the back of that, published a series of annual reports in key strategies such as safeguarding health and welfare. Nevertheless, the level of harm to our patient was unfortunately too high. We've seen there was a slight increase in waits over an hour in 24-25 compared to the previous year, but 2,545 more patients where we were unable to send an ambulance for when the patient has cancelled. There were 15 less severe cases though in 24-25 and 36 less patients estimated to have come to severe harm. As Lee talked about earlier, we have worked to remove the can't send as part of our clinical safety plan. And as Lee mentioned, that we've seen some of the impact that that's had in terms of the number of cancellations and our ability to respond to those patients. And all of that is as a result of the introduction of our clinical navigator role as part of the clinical model transformation. Trust continues to prioritise work on reducing avoidable patient harm and improving outcomes for the population. Our efforts to manage wider system risks, changes have been made to the Trust clinical safety plan, which Lee talked about, and the reduction of that can't send script. We've enhanced our ability to detect patients' clinical deterioration whilst awaiting response and increasing the remote clinical care workforce. And using alternatives pathways for introducing a care planning desk. We've got greater access to the Welsh Clinical Portal to facilitate patient identification and a greater awareness of clinical history and the continuation of care. And we've maintained a commitment to duty of candour enactment in driving national oversight at system level patient safety through collaboration and developing a joint investigation repository. In terms of keeping with that theme of our patients, we're looking for themes of where the public voices have come back to us in respect to these issues. Increasing the access to services is the majority of our complaints and related not to being able to access care when they felt they needed it. We've also seen common themes around unmet needs and expectations, and our complaints reveal that sometimes the care of service of people receiving is not what they expect or felt was right for them. There is learning about how we've explained and informed patients and educate about clinical decision making and service provision and alternate referral pathways. Moving on to parts of our service like non-emergency patient transport. In terms of appointments, people share with us distress and difficulties caused by same-day cancellations. And in terms of our clinical treatment and assessment, learning in relation to how we've reached decisions that not convey and feeling the treatment and advice or a plan that offered ought to have been more robust. And finally, in terms of attitude and behaviours, the importance of patience and empathy, particularly on advising of cancellations or increased waiting times, was also a strong improvement. Moving on to aspects of our clinical performance now. Here's two in respect of our clinical indicator measures that we've seen improvements on. So our clinical indicators have been a real area of focus of how we've captured the information. We've seen a ROSC performance for August 24, 24.2. That's the highest reporting of this measure since we've been capturing it. And we've also seen stroke care has improved, especially around detection of the fast means of identifying a stroke. And the percentage of suspected stroke patients receiving a documented appropriate care bundle steadily increased, and in March 2025 was at 91.6. I'll now hand over to Paul to talk about our people.
Thanks, Andy. Good morning all. Carl Eashaw, Director of People here at WAP. So my first slide, I'm going to look at recruitment and retention. So I'm pleased to share a positive update on the growth of our advanced paramedic practitioners, so APPs, and this workforce. Since 2019, we've more than tripled the number of APPs in our service. This growth was a key objective in our 24-25 IMTP, which aimed for a total of approximately 120 APPs. While we didn't reach that target within the 24-25 timeframe, I'm pleased to confirm that we've achieved it since. This reflects our long-term vision through the clinical model transformation programme and our commitment to enhancing clinical leadership and advanced practice. Encouragingly, turnover rates have declined steadily since 2023 and remain stable at around 8% since July 24. This is a strong indicator that our efforts to improve staff experience are making a real difference. Looking ahead, we remain focused on becoming an employer of choice. We're improving onboarding and induction experiences for new starters and launching our people development plan. This will embed professional growth as a core benefit, strengthen retention, and align individual aspirations with our strategic goals. I'm now going to touch on keeping our staff well and in work. As part of our people and culture plan, we've taken robust action to improve attendance and well-being. Through our improved attendance at work plan and health and well-being plan, we've cultivated a healthier, more resilient workforce. In March 25, we recorded an absence rate of 7.44%, the lowest in 2 years. This sustained reduction is a direct result of our proactive approach and commitment to a safe and supportive working environment. I'm now going to mention maximising the number of hours that we produce. Reducing sickness absence has been key to strengthening operational resilience. This work has directly supported our ability to boost ambulance production and meet demand more effectively. Staffing stability has helped us maintain low vacancy rates and consistent abstraction levels. It's a clear example of how our people and culture priorities are supporting service delivery, ensuring the right people are in the right place at the right time. Finally, I'm going to touch on supporting and developing our staff. Personal appraisal and development reviews, PADRs, remain a vital tool for staff development. Our year-end compliance for 24-25 reached 82.4%, up from 78.8% the previous year, just shy of our 85% target. This progress reflects our commitment to our Westway principles, which include care, connect, and value everyone. We're working to ensure PADRs are not just a tick box exercise, but a genuine opportunity to care for our people by investing in their growth, to connect through open and constructive conversations, and to value everyone by aligning individual goals with team and organisational priorities. Thank you. I'm now going to hand over to Angie Lewis.
I'm Angie Lewis, Director of Culture Change, and I'm delighted to be able to shine a light on some of our cultural change activities over the period concerned. On the slide, we've just given you a snapshot of some of the initiatives that were developed, but I particularly wanted to call out our Speaking Up Safely logo that you see there. We were delighted that we were able to appoint a full-time Freedom to Speak Up Guardian during this period. And this was to ensure that we had an additional route for our colleagues to raise concerns and also to reinforce our commitment to creating a strong speaking up culture. You'll also see reference to our strategic equality objectives, which have really shaped and driven our approach to inclusion over the period concerned. In particular, I'm delighted to share our inclusive recruitment campaign, which we delivered within our digital team, and the results were particularly successful, and we hope to make more of that over the coming year. Also pleased to say that our networks, our 7 people networks, are thriving, and this year in particular we were delighted with the launch of our Black Ethnic Minority Network, and again the thriving work of our Welsh Language and Carers Network in particular. Really pleased as well to reference for you our Change Community, which is a group of colleagues from within WAST who have been trained in formal change management techniques. And this is really to reinforce that view that we need to think about the emphasis on change on our people and ensure that they are supported through that. And then finally, I just wanted to reference our NHS People Wales Staff Survey. We were delighted that we saw increased participation in that, but in particular that we saw an increase from our colleagues in terms of how they feel that we are supportive and inclusive within the organisation. Thank you for listening, and I will pass to Trish.
Diolch, Angie. Borodar Pawb, good morning, everybody. The accountability report outlines the leadership and governance that underpin our strategic direction, including the roles of the board, the chair, and the accountable officer. It sets out the architecture of our governance framework, highlighting how our board committees ensure oversight, transparency, and accountability across the trust. You'll see in the report the full scope of work undertaken by our committees and our advisory group. And as part of our commitment to excellence and the duty of quality, we also conduct structured annual reviews of their effectiveness. And this year reaffirmed our strengths and sparked valuable conversations on how we can further streamline and enhance our governance structures in 2026 and beyond. Our board membership and declarations of interest are published in the director's report, with remuneration details for board members included in the staff report. All board and committee meetings were held as scheduled in the year. They were quorate and they were supported by well-attended and engaging board development sessions throughout the year. The accountability report also sets out the way we actively and effectively manage risk to successfully deliver our services and achieve our strategic objectives, and those risks are set out in the report as well. The Trust's escalation status remained at routine arrangements throughout 24-25, and the Head of Internal Audit Opinion reported that the board could take reasonable assurance on our governance and risk arrangements. Our 2024 structured assessment from Audit Wales was positive and found that the Trust's corporate arrangements support good governance and efficient use of resources. It commended progress in transforming clinical services and strengthening assurance systems. And so taken together, they really affirm the soundness of our governance framework. Beyond remuneration, the staff report highlights our commitment to a safe, inclusive workplace with initiatives, as we've just heard from Angie, such as Speaking Up Safely, allyship training, and our Lost Voices networks. Looking ahead, we'll continue to enhance our governance with a focus on integrated assurance frameworks, improved support for report authors, and consistent high-quality board and committee papers. The board visit standard operating procedure will remain a key tool for our board members to triangulate assurance and promote visible leadership. I'm handing over to Rachel now. Jo.
Thank you. Borodar Palb, good morning, everybody. Delighted to be sharing with you this morning a little bit about our forward plan. Having looked back over the last year, I'm just going to step you through a couple of the areas of focus from our integrated medium-term plan, 2025 to 2028. So our IMTP, our integrated medium-term plan, is set in the context of our long-term strategy, which is called Delivering Excellence, which was approved in 2019. And that sets out an ambition to move away from being a traditional ambulance and transport service to a trusted provider of high-quality care. And the headline here is that we want to ensure that patients receive the right advice and care in the right place every time, with a greater emphasis on providing care closer to home. And clearly our strategy is then underpinned by a series of enablers, for example, around enabling our people to be the best they can be, being at the forefront of innovation and technology, and delivering services in collaboration with our partners. And our plan, our integrated medium-term plan, is the vehicle that helps us to move forward towards those longer-term ambitions. So for this year, this 3-year plan has 3 areas of focus. The first, as you'd expect, is to focus on our patients and transforming the way we deliver care. And as Andy outlined earlier, we make those plans in the light of information that we receive from our patients and the public on where they find our services are needing of improvement. The second area of focus is to improve working environments for our people. And there's a range of areas there, which I'll come on to in a minute. And the third area of focus is creating a sustainable organisation, not just financially, but also environmentally. And this year, I think it's important to say that it's the first year where our well-being objectives have been integrated into our planning focus. And our well-being objectives, which are come through the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, are to be a socially responsible and inclusive employer, an innovative and sustainable organisation, and a proactive, accessible and equitable care provider. So turning to how we're transforming care for our patients, you'll see here a visual which sets out really our clinical model, which encompasses so much more than our emergency ambulances. You'll see that we have a growing online digital advice service, an expanded remote integrated care offer, a range of different services which respond to patients in the community. We clearly have our emergency response capability, but we also have our health transport service. And providing our services in this way, we're trying to integrate those services better together. And as I've said before, we're trying to treat patients within their communities, reducing the strain on hospitals and providing more preventative approaches. So just to give you a couple of examples of some of the areas of focus for this year, in terms of our online digital advice, we are improving the website for 111, and we've just recently gone live with a virtual assistant technology, which it would be great for people to start using and provide us with some feedback on. In terms of our remote integrated care offer, this is our clinicians who sit in our control centres. We've expanded the numbers of clinicians in those centres and increased the number of specialists that work there. And those clinical specialists within our contact centres are supported by an increasing number of volunteers, our community welfare responders, who support patients at home and provide information back to our clinicians about the patient's needs. In terms of our urgent community response, this is where we're trying to grow the numbers of types of ways in which we respond to patients in the community. So, as we've already mentioned, we've grown the number of advanced paramedics that we employ. We've increased the number of palliative care specialists within the community. We maintain a very robust falls service that is provided by St John Ambulance Cymru. And we've introduced a new service this year in the south east of Wales, which is a mental health response vehicle, which we're testing and we will be evaluating through this year. In terms of our emergency response, as Lee has already mentioned, we set out in our IMTP and have gone live with a new emergency response performance framework from the 1st of July, which is seeing a focus on clinical outcomes and the chain of survival, particularly for those patients who are experiencing cardiac or respiratory arrest. And that will allow us to, will drive us really to do more collectively, nationally, to make sure that we're training more people in CPR, that we're deploying more defibrillators quickly in order to get better outcomes for patients. And in terms of our health transport service, this is where we have colleagues who provide transport into various parts of the system, which is enabled to be scheduled. So we're working to schedule some of our work as opposed to it being unscheduled. As I say, our plan is also got to focus on our working environments for our people, and our people and culture plan is built around 3 core principles: improving our culture, our capacity and our capability. So under our culture, this year we're continuing to foster that speak up culture where every voice is valued and colleagues feel safe to share concerns and ideas to enhance patient and staff experiences. Under our capacity, as an example, and Angie has mentioned this, we're embedding our inclusive recruitment practices to attract diverse talent, particularly from ethnic minority backgrounds. And under our capability, we've launched our WAFS Way, which is our leadership offer, and we are rolling out essential conversations training to foster inclusive, compassionate leadership across the organisation. And this work is absolutely critical to delivering our strategic goals, supporting our people and ensuring we continue to provide safe, effective and compassionate care. Within our plan also, we have areas of focus. Just move on, sorry. That's all right. Thanks. We've also got an area of focus in terms of our digital plan, and we have put some investment into our digital services this year. I've mentioned already the improvements to our 111 website, but we're also working with partners to identify ways in which we can safely share data so that we can see where our services are having the most positive impacts. In terms of our fleet, which Chris has already mentioned, is a big area of importance for us. We are replacing vehicles in our fleet, and we recently had announced a significant capital investment to allow us to do that. And we're moving forward with developing our use of hybrid and electric vehicles where possible in our single responder and NEPS vehicles, and that will help to reduce our impact on the environment. And lastly, clearly our plan also includes ways in which we're going to be developing our buildings and improving our buildings so that staff have good working environments that are also more environmentally friendly. Lastly, our plan is underpinned by a balanced financial plan, which the Trust Board approved as part of its submission of the IMTP. We included in there funding uplifts as agreed across NHS Wales, but it does require us to make savings, which are a significant level of £8.5 million. But I am pleased to say that those plans are in place and those savings are being delivered. The budget that goes along with that plan was approved by the board in March 2025, and we have just concluded the budget discussions between the Chief Executive, the Executive Director of Finance, and all of the directors to formally sign off budgets. So I think that concludes our forward look for the year, Chair.
Thank you very much. Which takes us, I believe, to questions from the public. And I think, Angie, you're going to guide us through that process.
Yes, happy to do that. Yeah. We only have one question as it stands at the moment, and this question is from Jeremy Nugent. So thank you for this question. And this question is going to go to Carl, our Director of People. Please can the board outline the plans for the majority of paramedic graduates who do not have posts? And please can the board also comment on what plan and communication there has been with Welsh HEIs in 25-26, as this lack of posts appears to have been a surprise for the 25-26 new graduate cohort.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nugent. So as a result of changes to skill mix, changes in our working patterns and the financial landscape within the NHS, we have found ourselves in the challenging position of not being able to offer newly qualified paramedic roles to a number of recent graduates from Welsh universities. We are currently working with Health Education and Improvement Wales, partner organisations across NHS Wales, and more broadly in the public sector. For example, the military, and we hope to try and secure some alternatives.
One more question has just come in.
Excellent.
Thank you. And this question is for Lee. Regarding performance indicators in response times, do you have different targets for urban and rural areas? And how is your performance against them?
Thanks. Thanks, Angie. The simple answer to the question is no, we don't have separate response times. The response measures as they were, we talked last year on those 5% in 8 minutes, was a national target with a health board target at 60%. So that was the construct of the prior RED measurement. And so, no, we do not have separate times for urban and rural. Very much supported by desire for equity of access, equity of experience. I certainly know, speaking of some of my experience from working elsewhere, it was not uncommon to have different response times for urban versus rural areas. Of course, I can understand arguments both for and against, but as things rest here in Wales, we do not.
Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you very much,
No
Andy.
further questions.
No more questions. Just checking with any of our colleagues externally. We've still got no more questions. It's the last opportunity. Pause for just a moment. We have some time, so we'll just pause in case there is anybody with their fingers on a keyboard about to pose a question to us. We can get Andy to see whether anything is flashing up on your screen. Good. All right. Okay, well, in that case, that brings us to the end of this annual general meeting for this year. We will obviously be repeating the exercise again, same time, more or less, next year. For anybody interested, I'd invite you also that at 11 o'clock this morning, we will be reconvening for our in-public board meeting, which is also available to join us live via the various systems or to observe after the event. But for those of you who are leaving us, Thank you for attending. Those who are going to join us at 11 o'clock, we look forward to seeing you then. And for everybody in the room, we'll take a break and we'll reconvene at 11 o'clock for our board meeting. Thank you, everybody. Now looking at Alex to tell us if we're